Avaleka, and my background is in child development, actually, and I have experience teaching at the community college and local Concordia University in child development, actually. Early childhood's my area of interest, but I'm going to share with you what I'm doing now, and my story kind of unfolds. My family. So I have 4 children. And my youngest has multiple food allergies. He's allergic to dairy, eggs, peanuts, tree nuts, and shellfish. So I hit the jackpot. And I was teaching at the community college, and it started like, oh, we need someone to do an in-service on food allergies. And I said, well, sorry, I just live it. I don't teach that exactly. Well, then it just evolved. And I said, well, I can share with you what I do. I have a really big extended family. And so I said, what I could do is just share with you how I approach it from a child development perspective, because that's my background and that's how I look at it. And so that's what you're going to see today. But in the course of this process, it started in 2012, so it's been a long time. It keeps evolving. I started working with some doctors because I wanted to make sure it was medically accurate what I was sharing. So I started working with a couple doctors and came up with a way to share it with you, which is what you'll see. White slides is how I would talk to children, how I do talk to children. In fact, how I talk to all the children today. They only saw the white slides. Blue slides is what adults and those who are really responsible for perhaps even administering the EpiPen would need to know. So it kind of goes back and forth. And I found it interesting. I know you're like, well, we're middle school teachers. What good is this to all of us? And I found it quite effective, honestly, is in sharing with your age group as well, because sometimes I think as children look older, get bigger, you forget that this is still a pretty scary topic. It's very real. I know myself, I've administered the EpiPen more than 5 times. I've been in the intensive care unit for a long weekend and a scary weekend at that. And I think these kids, if they've had a run-in with a food allergy, they quickly go back to feeling pretty vulnerable. So I think it's good for you to see, just to remember there's still a little kid that's scared inside them. And actually, your age group is at most risk. You'd think it was little kids, but it's the age of middle school and high school where they want to fit in so badly that they don't want to be the kid to say, oh, stop, I have to read a food label. They just want to fit in. So whereas the little ones, you have to monitor them. Each age is difficult, I guess. They all have their challenges. So anyway, I share with you my experience today. Currently, I'm working at Northwestern School of Medicine with a doctor to develop food allergy, to make it, my work has been, to date, child development based. And we're trying to make it child development and research based. So it's kind of a new process that I'm kind of embarking on. So I share with you things I've learned along this path and the story. So without further ado. So my family experiences, no experience with it. In fact, my grandfather was a dairy farmer, so my mother's solution to any childhood illness was have a glass of milk, you'll be fine. So I really didn't know anything. So what I did is I approached it like a teacher would. So my son had all these multiple allergens. I thought, well, put on my teacher cap, practice what I teach and preach. So I just became an observer. And I had in my notebook, and I just went to the library, got all these books, and shared them with my children, who were very little at the time. They were 2, almost 3, 5, and 7, and then the little brother was 6 months old. And it was in their questions that this work truly, this approach kind of emerged, because my 7-year-old said, Mom, why does everyone feel sorry for him? And I thought, wow, why does everyone feel sorry for him? I started looking at food allergies from 7-year-old, the age of reason, where they can hold 2 thoughts at the same time. And everywhere I went, I'd be holding cute little baby, and I'd say, oh, no, thank you for the cookie, he has these allergens. And everyone would go, oh, as my list grew of what he's allergic to, people just said, oh, that's too bad, oh, he's so unlucky, or things like that. Their face would change, and you could see this feeling sorry for him. So that was one thing. And he's really, if he doesn't have the food, he's really fine. So it was confusing to a child. My 5-year-old, when I had this stack of books from the library, he started flipping through them, and he saw one with an EpiPen being administered into the outside of the thigh. And he said, he looked at it and he goes, ugh. And he shut the book, kind of threw the book, and went and got his basket of animals. And he said, why does this have to be so scary? And it's true that it is scary. That we don't talk about shots with most kids. It's not their favorite topic. And it is, I felt the same way. Why does this have to be so scary? It's life-threatening. Like, this could be, it's like just a quick thing. And things can change on you like that. So I saw where he was coming from. He couldn't hold all the fear. It was too scary. And children can't hold a lot of fear. They often avoid fear and things like that. And then my 2-year-old was on the cut, like 2, almost 3. She said something that I've heard many parents say, many teachers say, but she said one day, after I thought I had done a really nice job educating them, or to the best I could at that point, she put her hands on her hips and she said, why does he get everything special? And I thought, right. Like in the cabinet, there's a shelf for his food. In the refrigerator, there's a shelf for his food. And when the grandmas come, they would say, oh, and I brought something special for you. It just seemed like flat out outrageous. Like, why are they getting it? And in my head, I thought, I see what she means, but education, 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 because she's not getting that the severity and all these other things. So those 3 questions have led to what I'm going to share with you. So it became very clear to me that there are really 2 audiences. Children get one message, adults get another. Now, I would put your age children that you work with in middle school, they might be babysitting, they might be at camps, that they're ready for an adult message. But I like to share with you kind of this back and forth so you can kind of see the difference, the nuance in it, in the message. And then my experiences in current work, I kind of already said that. So the takeaways from today are the 8 most common allergens. There are 8 that are most common that we'll go through. Signs and symptoms. What might you see? How do you know if someone's having an allergic reaction? What would that look like? What would they tell you? Have a plan. You don't want this to happen, but you have to have a plan. Prevention and management, I believe they go together. You prevent it as best you can. And at this date and this time, the only way to prevent an allergic reaction is to stay away from the food you're allergic to. So you try your best to do that, but accidents can happen, and you quickly could be in a management situation of an anaphylactic reaction. So I think you just have to be ready for both. And then set the tone. It's a bit of a child development thing, but I can't help but think it wouldn't apply to your age children as well. I have kids your ages, and they need to be reassured and just staying calm, bringing it down a few levels. Reassurance, reducing fear is important. Question just about just a big picture. Why are food allergies so difficult for schools to manage? If you want to just shout out a few answers that come to mind.
You can't control what the kids bring.
Absolutely. You can't control what they're bringing to school or what food they have on them. Absolutely. That's probably the biggest thing that schools have to figure out. And then how do you avoid all of the allergens?
They can manifest at any time too, so it's not like something you're necessarily born with. You can inherit it later.
Right. So you can outgrow a food allergy, and you can also develop an allergy, and you can have adult onset. So some of this might be helpful for all of you, even as adults. So it's a very 1 in 13 children will have a food allergy. They've increased 50% in recent years. They have 25% of first-time reactions happen in a school setting. So you might not even know you have an allergy until you try something. So these are just the facts of it, that it's an epidemic of our time. So that's what makes it hard. What is it like to be a child with food allergies? Well, it varies of the children, but could you share some of your reactions to that answer, or to that question that come to mind? What words might come to mind to that? Lonely. Difficult, excluded. Cautious. Different. Burden. what I would share with you I've done a lot of these presentations. Maybe once or twice someone has said a positive word. They usually are like they have negative connotations. I know where you're coming from exactly with it, but they do have, there is the burden part of it that people feel. So I would just challenge you to check the tone that you set with it, because kids can read that real quickly of what tone you set. And that's a early childhood thing that I think gets lost in translation as kids get older, because I still think they can read if you find them a hassle. If you see it as a burden, are you seeing the child with a food allergy as a burden too? Because they'll pick up on that right away, and they won't want to tell you and bug you about their food allergy. So just something to keep in mind. So so I just like to start with the kids and ask them, like, what's a food allergy, and just to hear what they know. And I was just with third graders all day. They know a lot about food allergies at third grade. The difference between kindergarten, a few weeks ago I was with the kindergartners, and the kindergarten, they couldn't, they'd say, oh, it's something about peanuts. They were real vague, but they had some buzzwords going. But the third graders had a pretty good, it's something you can't eat, that it will make your body sick, things like that. But it's a good to just see where they're at. You could do that in your grades. What's a food allergy? Who knows? And just hear what they say, and that's where they're coming in at. Our little brother does, and we'd like to help you understand food allergies. So I kind of go through this. Did you ever get bitten by a mosquito? It's so itchy. Did you ever see a dog bitten by a flea? It's so itchy. Did Barbara ever use clippers to trim the hair on the back of your neck? It's so itchy. Okay, you might not itch if you have an allergic reaction, you might not itch, actually. But for children, it's a word that they say. It's a word they know. It's concrete. It's not abstract. It's something everyone can relate to. And I found that just harnessing what they can relate to is quite powerful. So you don't like to itch. No one likes to itch. And I researched it. An itch is a mild stimulation of pain receptors. An itch is something from even a 6-month-old. They might not have a word, but they can tell you something is not right. So it's something, I just have found it's something everyone can relate to. And for children, all these food allergy policies in schools impact them. So whether they have food allergies or not. So I find like something to help them understand it if they're not living it. I found it to be a helpful word. That said, medicine, it's only one thing that might happen in an allergic reaction. It's only one attribute that could happen. So it's something to be mindful. So what do we do to stop the itch? There's bug spray for mosquitoes, stay away itchy mosquitoes. Dogs wear flea collars, stay away itchy fleas. Barbara puts a towel on your neck when you get a haircut, stay away itchy hairs. But this is the key message. There's no medicine, there's no spray, there's no collar you can wear for a food allergy. All you can do is stay away from it. Stay away from the food you're allergic to is the only thing you can do to not have an allergic reaction. You might hear in the news there are all sorts of patches coming on. Things are coming on to minimize, hopefully, the severity of it and maybe, do something. But nothing is in place right now where it's a daily thing you can do. Nothing exists now. So we say stay away itchy food. So I have a little monster puppet that the kids like that we'll show them just a visual on it to just stay away from the food. That's the biggest message. Stay away from the food you can't have. Just stop and stay away from it. So for adults, it's a malfunction in the body's immune system that causes the body to overreact to otherwise harmless foods. So the best example before I entered the food allergy world was like a sliver or a splinter. You know you have it because it puffs up and your body sends enemy. You have something has invaded your body, get it out. And you know because it's all puffy, swollen, it hurts. It's irritating. And it's not exactly that, but similar. Your body, when you ingest something you're allergic to, your body launches an attack and wants to get the enemy protein out. The protein in the food is what's causing the immune system. It's seeing it as like intruder. So it's going to do everything it can to get it out. And so the body sends all these signals and symptoms that happen. So we just have to, keep it away. So I go through this, like he itches when he eats dairy. I go through the 8 most common allergens. You could be allergic to anything, actually. Strawberries, if someone tells you something that seems crazy, believe them, they are. It's just not as common. There are 8 that are most common. So he itches when he eats dairy. And I started, then we go through examples of what dairy could be. And I have found if it's not your issue, you have not had to, if you don't have to think about what's dairy, you don't. You might probably know somewhere in your mind, but when you have a dairy allergy, you have to know everything that has dairy in it. And you have to be on the lookout all the time. And I added this slide to my presentation. You'll see it on all of them. When I had my minivan full of kids, and we went into a burger place, and I had food for my son, but I did see they had an all-fruit smoothie. So I said, my son has a dairy allergy, so I have his food, but I'd like to order him an all-fruit smoothie. Place the order along with the other orders. And then I stepped to here where they give you the drinks and all. And they passed the drink, and he took one sip, one pull off the straw, and he's holding his neck. Oh no. I went back and I said, what's in your all-fruit smoothie? And she said, dairy, or they're, strawberries, bananas, whatever, orange juice, and yogurt. Oh, is yogurt dairy? It's not her issue. It definitely is dairy. I have an allergic reaction right here, right now, with all of my friends and guests at the restaurant. So anyway, I'll tell you more as this goes on. So dairy, some foods that you have to kind of think about, where is dairy, where might you find it? That's how people with food allergies have to think. So eggs, so I put it to you, what are some foods that have eggs? You can shout out some food examples. Egg noodles, baked things, cakes. Yeah, they come from a chicken. A lot of really smart people have said, oh, he has a dairy allergy, he can't have eggs. I'm like, oh, well, they come from a chicken, actually, but he has an egg allergy also. But anyway, so egg noodles, fried rice, sometimes eggs get thrown into a lot of things. Even a little third grader said, on my burger. So there are some burgers where you put an egg on it. Anyway, he itches when he eats peanuts. Peanuts, it gets the most attention, so the most research has been done on peanuts, but dairy, egg, the others can be just as fierce and just as severe. Peanuts, any food, where would you find peanuts in foods you eat? These trail mixes, yeah. A lot of times, baseball games, Five Guys, there's another restaurant, I can't think of the name right now, where they have peanuts all over the place. But they're grown differently. Peanut butter, candies, toppings on ice cream. Ice cream, peanut butter ice cream itself, right? It's like kind of a lot of places. Yeah, it's just, I didn't know early on why they said peanuts and tree nuts. It seemed like over the top. Like, why don't they just say nuts? Why do we have to do all this? But it's how they're grown. Peanuts are harvested differently than tree nuts. So what are tree nuts? Almonds, pecans, pistachios, hazelnuts. Nutella was a popular one among the third graders. Anyway, yeah, they grow on trees. They might, old school, maybe you have a bowl of them, you crack them open. If they're open, maybe you dice them up and you put them into muffins, cakes, cookies, breads, all these things. You might even throw them in your salads or in your shampoo. Like, they smell good. Nuts, there's a lot of lotions, soaps, shampoos that smell because they smell good. So that's something to just have on your radar. He itches when he eats wheat. Wheat. Any examples? Breads and pastas, yeah, crackers, right. That's grown around here. The third graders knew that. Anyway, anytime you add a cup of flour, even for kindergarten teachers make a lot of Play-Dohs and clays and stuff, you're adding that. So early on in my journey with my son, we also thought he had celiac disease, and so he never had a wheat allergy, but I left this because I learned a lot in that process. So nowadays, if someone says you have a lot of gluten, people avoid gluten. And so celiac disease is also on the rise, but that's a different specialist. For a food allergy, you would see an allergy immunologist and an allergist. And for celiac disease, you would see a gastrointestinal doctor, GI, totally different system. An EpiPen will not help someone who has celiac disease who consumes wheat. So it's just, and And a lot of people are paleo or gluten carb free and things like that. And kids know all this. They said, "Oh, my dad's paleo," or something like. They take in gluten, wheat. They hear little bits and pieces of it all, and it comes into your classroom. So what you really need to know is if they say I can't have wheat, or if they say gluten, sometimes people interchange it even though it's different. What you need to know is it because of a food allergy? That's all you need to know. What you want to know is, would an EpiPen be how I would help you? Would I use that to help you? And I've learned that in the process. There are a lot of people. It's just a good one to know that other epidemics going on and dietary interests and things like that. Other foods can make people itch or get sick too. Soy, shellfish, and fin fish. Those are the other three that that people are allergic to. And then I like to say, but be careful. If they could only all stay in their lane, it'd be easy, but they don't. They get mixed up like a salad, and you have no idea what's in what. So it's why people, parents maybe to you, or maybe you've experienced this outside of even your work, people say, are there nuts in that? What are the ingredients in that? What kind of oil are you using with that? All those questions matter because you can't see it. So if I throw those nuts into that salad and toss it, they might go to the bottom. I have no idea. It's contaminated. So cross-contact, cross-contamination is why it's just a big thing. Like if I touch the best is if I am making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and I take peanut butter, spread it on the bread, and I don't wash the knife, and I stick it in the jelly is contaminated. And that anyone who has that jelly could have traces of peanut. And it's why those on the back on a food label, it might say manufactured in a facility that processes, or those processing things. You have no idea. Did they wipe the conveyor belt down? Did they scrub it down? Did they just run the next thing on it? You have no idea, so you have to avoid those foods. And as much of a hassle as it is, you just don't know. And it's kind of like to the salad. You have no idea what got mixed into that unless you ask a lot of questions. So adults, you just have to be aware of cross-contamination, cross-contact. Utensils, the environment, body products, planning lessons. Sometimes you get a great Pinterest idea, or especially around the holidays, that involves some sort of food item. And you're not thinking food, you're thinking your cute, clever Pinterest idea. And that kind of comes back to be a problem. Arts and crafts, field trips. I don't know how much on your field trips that they would pass out candy, but that's pretty, a kindergarten's classroom went on a field trip to a fire station, and the firemen passed out candy at the end, and had nuts, and they had a peanut allergy, and they were trying to pull it all back from the kids, and it's kind of a mess. I don't know if you have that exactly to the extent because your kids are bigger, but I put it to you as just a FYI. So we have to read food labels and just keep the food away. That's all we can do. So you say stay away, cheap foods. So other things you can do, post menus, keep food labels for snacks and activities. I found snap a picture of the food label and text it to the parent if you develop a relationship like that. Send me a picture, I can look at that label in a second and tell you if they can have it or not. But that prevents you when you're busy with your activity. Are there nuts in that or this? Where you're interrupted, even if you're hosting people, you can prevent a lot of the in the moment questions if that bothers you. Always note the time. So little children eat often, and it's usually they're on tight routines. At your age, your ages of the children, it gets tricky because they might not be eating all at a regimented time. So, but that's your first. When you show up in the ER, the first thing they'll say is, what time did they ingest the allergen? I'll say 6 o'clock. We were at the smoothie place, 6 o'clock. Okay, so you're on watch now from 6 until they will just watch the body systems and for the amount of time to make sure another reaction doesn't come on, or just to monitor things. So the time becomes very important. And just be alert. And I would say harness the help of kids. Best responders have been, Mom, look at his face, or look at his neck, or it's a kid at their eye level who notices something. So if you have someone who has a food allergy in your grades, find their friends and say, hey, if they ever feel sick, let me know. Help me out. Yeah, they harness the kids. They want to help. They don't want anything to happen to their friends either. So if he eats these foods, his whole body gets sick. So face, with kids I just say his face. They were today, I said, what do you think, what happens? I have them like, touch your face, what happens? They knew, third grade knew, like runny, watery eyes, runny nose, their lips, they have stories. Oh, my sister, her lips swelled up, she couldn't talk because her tongue was swollen, and they know these things. Hives, and your face is a real good indicator of something. So yeah, these might be things that you see. But even I found third graders to know this today. They were shouting out these things, not shouting out, but offering. His neck. So I like to tell kids, like, hold your neck, and two really important things happen. You breathe and you swallow. So you can imagine in the little sliver analogy, if your finger can puff up, if your neck puffed up and you can't swallow and breathe, that's a problem. So again, you might not itch, but that might happen. That's a big deal. So in the fruit smoothie moment, my son's going like this. That's a big deal. That was a big time reaction coming on. So in that moment, I would advise, if you ever have this situation come on, keep them talking. So it requires great presence to stay calm, but do it. And say like, oh, so how did it taste? Oh, it didn't taste good, Mom. I'm like, oh, okay. Can't even get words out. This is now, the voice is impacted. You learn a lot from hearing the quality of their voice. Then they can't really say, so I have found them to say, I'm itchy, I'm itchy, I'm itchy. But I don't know that they're truly itchy, but there's something going on, and that's all they can think to say. Just my observation of that. His tummy, yeah, tummy. He might be like vomiting. It's not pretty. Rapid cough, wheezing, all these things going on. So even the insides of their body can get it. You might not see it. In fact, you might not see anything. They might just stop breathing, right? That might just all be happening inside. It just all varies depending on the child, and past reactions don't always mean that same thing will happen. So it's really a different experience. And surprise, it can happen that fast. One sip of the smoothie, and boom, we're in a serious situation that happens so fast. So they come on within a few minutes to a few hours. That's why you'll usually, if someone says, oh, I'm not feeling well, good next question is, what did you eat? What did you eat just now? Or what have you eaten? If you have I don't know if you do parties in your classroom, but keep the labels, just stick all the boxes with the labels under a table so you can pull them out and see what was in it if you need to do that. Stop. Tell an adult if they look sick, if they aren't feeling well. And I added this one from the fruit smoothie moment. Adults might take them to the ER. I like to share that with kids, that your teachers have been trained, and should this happen and they're sick, you or your friend might have to go to the hospital, and that's not a bad thing. But the kids that were with me with the fruit smoothie moment were really scared. I thought, you know what, doctors are there to help us. It's good we're going to it's good we're going to the hospital, and I don't know how much they hear that's a good thing to do when you're not feeling well, and to not be scared of it. It depends on their experience with that, but I like to give them a little heads up that this is how it would be, and don't worry, we're under control. We know how to handle it, and we'll get you the help you need in the moment that you need it. So yeah, doctors create an emergency plan. This is the state of Illinois one. It looks something like this. And this is a FAIR puts out, the national organization puts this one out. And a doctor will come up with a plan. It's based on the child's past history, what their past reaction history's been, skin test, blood test, all these things are taken into account. And the individual plan matters. So if you have a child with food allergy, even right now, if you can think have you seen a plan what you're supposed to do? You should. Because each kid, if we all had food allergies, or if this whole side had a food allergy, they might all have a different plan, depending on, especially their children, their weight. Well, most of your kids will be in just the adult size EpiPen or AviQ, but nonetheless, you should know that. And it just tells you how to react. So in my son's, his skin test, blood test, and our plan at the moment of the fruit smoothie was if he ingests dairy, he needs the EpiPen and get to the hospital right away. So in that moment, we had he's holding his neck, I could barely hear, he's like, oh, Mom, it doesn't feel good, or it didn't taste good or something. And then he had hives coming on, and then comes the vomiting. And I'm like, oh gosh, you start counting systems. That's kind of how it works. A mild reaction might just be hives or one body system. But when it's multiple things happening, that's the game changer. You're counting systems. So I had skin is a system. I had skin, I had neck, which that could be airway, there's a lot going on there. Neck, mouth, I don't know if the tongue was swollen. I didn't like stick my fingers in there or anything. And then he's vomiting. 3 things. It was like, for sure, this is an anaphylactic moment, but I'm still in the burger place, so you got to act quick. So in that, you've seen it, the EpiPens, and I think you've been trained on these, but you have, there's, EpiPen is made by Mylan, and AviQ is, Calio makes AviQ. The medicine is epinephrine, and that's what's important. How it looks is different and how it functions. But it's administered to the outside of the thigh, and I have found in administering it, sometimes they'll say lay them down. Well, in my burger moment, there was no way laying down on that floor was going to make anything better. It was better to, I have found it, and I just have found just to, once, take a deep breath for me. My adrenaline's up. It's like I've already had the epinephrine in that moment. But just to stay calm and just to remember they're scared, and they might be even saying, no, I don't want to go to the hospital, I don't want to, they might even be talking, but so like kind of overriding that. But just to say your body is really sick right now and this medicine will help. And I have never been so happy to have that medicine in these moments. So like you sit there thinking like, oh, I hope I never have to do this. But in the moment, should someone be in distress of breathing, you're very happy to have that thing. That's what I would tell you. So you can't see that at the moment. But so the plan matters. Mild system is one body system, irritase. So think of your major organs as your body systems, and then anaphylaxis is more. And it can be fatal, and that is the fact of it. So if you administer epinephrine, you have to go to the hospital. It elevates the heart rate, and they have to be monitored. And I've had to give 3 epis en route at one point. Like, so that can happen too. It's like it gives you about 20 minutes, and you might need another one. But instantly, you'll almost wonder, did they need it? Was I too quick to give it? But I've had that situation too, and it's better to give than to administer it than to say, oh, I was wondering if I should have. You don't want to be in that situation. So nobody likes to itch, and nobody wants you to itch. So these are questions kids have asked. Today, take note of the bottom one. So can you see it? Of course you can see it. That's how you know. Can you touch it? Should you crack an egg if you're allergic to egg? No, not a good idea. If you choose to do that in your own home and you have an allergy, like, that's your own thing. But in a school setting, no way. Like, don't let them go near it. Can you taste it? No. That's when you'll get in your system, body will respond as it will respond. But can you hear you talk about it? Today, a child with food allergies, he told me at the start that he had a food allergy. And when I got to this, he said, sometimes. And I said, what do you mean? He said, it depends how they say it, how they talk about it. So isn't that the truth? Like, oh, he has a food allergy is different than a nicer way to say it. Also, whispering is an issue in schools, or taunting kids they're onto it. But I believe that if you don't educate kids about food allergies, why would they don't understand it? They're just trying to understand it in a not so good way. But so that was just kind of interesting. So we keep the foods away, stay away, eat foods. So having a plan, know exactly where your medicine is kept at all times. So today, if you look back at your day, do you know where the medicine is? If you have a food allergy in your class, do you know where it is? Or even if they have some other, that is important. Secure the child. The child gets your priority, and the others have to be secured by someone else. So if you have another teacher, like, hey, can you get this group and take them somewhere? So my fruit smoothie moment, and then call 911 and the principal, of course. But don't call mom, because mom might be in Lamont. And like, just get him where he needs to go. And I'll meet you there. But don't wait for me to give authorization. Just make your good judgment in the moment, because that's the worst, that you didn't do anything is worse. In my fruit smoothie, so all right, my kids were really little, so keep that in mind, but I gave them all a job based on that. And so my oldest, his job was to get everyone out of the way. So all I had to say is, we have an itchy foods moment, and they could read, which, I mean, it's beyond an itch. At that point, you can clearly see it. So my oldest one, like, got everyone out of the way. My next son, his job was always find the medicine, so I always know where it's kept, and it's in my bag. He was handing it to me, and my daughter's job was always to get me a sweater, because ERs are cold, and my keys, because an ambulance isn't going to take 6 of us. I did learn that early on, so I just opted to get in the car and get right to the ER. Fortunately, we were close to one, and that's in that situation how I handled it. But in a school, you have protocol, and you follow your protocol. But those are at the heart of what you have to do. One of my doctor friends taught me a term that doctors use, and you've probably seen it if you've been in a hospital with anyone. They sign out, so they'll tell you, the nurse will say, my shift is ending, your next nurse is Susie, and she's coming in right now, or she'll take care of you. And they put their name on the board even sometimes. And that's important. Like, I think education could benefit from that. To sign in, sign out. Like, okay, I'm leaving, I have to go to a meeting, but this teacher's in charge. Does that teacher know where the medicine is, who has the food allergies, what's happening? That even goes with substitute teachers. So lunchroom monitors, parent helpers, substitute teachers, field trip. These people all need to know, because if they're going to be in charge for a few minutes, you have to sign out to them that all your knowledge of what you would do, that they know what to do too. And stay calm. It's not so easy, but you already do this, actually. Teachers are pretty good. Thoughtful planning, you try to do that. Your compassionate conversation. I think you know not to get kids all add more worry to them. You try to keep them calm. And you're already shrewd about dangerous situations. We don't let children play outside when it's minus 15, and we don't let them go outside. We have other precautions that we take for that. And you're used to working with a lot of parents. Everyone's going to approach this a little bit differently. Some more aggressive than others, some more passive than others. There was a preschool that had the problem that the child had a lot of food allergies, but the parent didn't want anyone to know. They didn't want their child to be left out. All those feelings of what is it like to be a child with food allergies, that parent was like, I don't want my child to experience that. So her option, or what she was choosing to do, is not tell anyone, which that's worse. So you want to set a tone that prevents that from happening. That's a bad situation. So we keep the foods away, and we say, stay away, itchy foods. Food's part of the gathering, so are the people. So it kind of just shift the focus to the reason you're gathering. Why are you gathering? Oh, it's a back-to-school event. By the way, pizza will be served. Versus pizza party and then you're trying to figure out, why are we having a pizza party? Like, make sure the focus, so that it just matters. Authentically teaching and other focus is helpful in this day and age with technology. It's good for kids to think about other people and shift the focus to others. And as adults, we set the tone. Don't forget, you set the tone. Don't forget, you are setting a tone. So in early childhood, we say we want to create a caring community of learners. I'd like to think that middle school still wants that. But focus on teachable moments, body systems. Your ages could totally understand the immune system. They're ready for it. Teach them about the immune system and what the power of the immune system, and the power of it when it's suppressed, too. Like that's something that they could probably find interesting. Food awareness. There's not a lot of food awareness, so in the fruit smoothie moment, is yogurt dairy? This is an employee of a food establishment not knowing your food groups. That's a big deal. So when do you learn about nutrition and food? Ask yourself, think about how you learned about it. And I've learned a lot from entering this world, so I'm grateful for food allergies, actually, from looking at labels. I'm like, that's disgusting, I've been eating that. Whoa. Because you start to see what what's in the food you're eating, but kids could learn that. Hygiene and safety. We do a lot about hygiene, washing hands, but I caution you, one thing that happened in my home early on, my son, again, little, he was out playing with a friend, and they came in the house, and he said to his friend, hey, we have to wash our hands because my little brother has food allergies. I shut that down right away, and I said, wait a minute, boys, look at your hands, filthy. You wash your hands because they're dirty, you have germs, there are like a lot of reasons you wash your hands. Don't blame it all on the child with food allergies that you wash your hands. There are a lot of reasons you should be washing your hands. But yes, it helps kids with food allergies when you wash your hands. And then, I don't know, just see opportunity if this seems like a burden to you to have to manage one more thing of food allergies. Really, a lot of hospitality and consideration of others. It's good to teach them, like, just to think about other people. It's a small element of diversity that's been entered into your classroom. How will you embrace it? How will you address it? How will you welcome it? Those are the questions. And I like to share with kids there's a lot that they can do. Be nice. It's just how their body is. It's their immune system is reacting to the protein in the food. It is what it is. That's what it's doing. Be thoughtful. Think of a snack everyone can have. Do that. A school in Park Ridge, 8th grader, the track is a K through 8 school, and one of the teachers was starting a track team, and she had gathered the group, and she brought a snack just out of her own money. The teacher, who is now the track coach, bought a snack and brought it, and some of the kids said, oh, but Jane can't have that because she has food allergies. And the teacher said, she shared the story, she said, I actually said out loud, like, hey, I just tried to do a nice thing, like, lay off, I can't get into figuring that out too. I've got a lot going on. And the next time the track team met, the kids brought the snack. And she said, shame on me for not recognizing that moment. That wasn't the right way to handle it. But those kids they see it. So I just thought that was an interesting one, that the kids will sometimes initiate it, that you can even, again, harness their help. Like, hey, what could we come up with? Instead of oh, I can't manage that one last thing. So be clean. I think it's good for your body. It's good for, keeps the allergens out. Be neat, throw away your trash. It's good for the environment, but it's also good for kids with food allergies. Be helpful. Ask an adult to help you read a food label before you share. So sharing's kind of a tricky one. You want kids to be nice. Kids want friends. But food probably many of us grew up sharing food was a way that you were hospitable and that's, you just have to ask, can you have this? Can we check this? And it's just a new, maybe a twist to that. But that's one of my favorite handout. I left you a handout. To me, that's the most important thing if you grabbed one of the handouts. That tells you how to read all the words on a label beyond just the bolded print. And it's so empowering to know that. I could look at any label and tell you what can happen and what can't. So if I were you, I'd keep that one. I try to minimize the paper, but that's a good one. But again, by law, companies are to disclose if they have the 8 most common allergens. Sesame might be a 9th one coming on. It's coming on a lot. It's been in the news a lot, and they're following it. But also these manufacturing things, you have to just avoid those foods. If someone's allergic, you have no idea what amount is in the food or what kind of contact was made. And don't feel bad. Again, feeling bad for someone because they can't eat something that others are eating doesn't get very far. That just is it's a pile-on to oh, you can't have that. Remember that food didn't make their body feel very good or won't make it feel good. So maybe if you can't really relate to that, think of a food that you really don't like and someone is feeling bad that you can't eat it. You don't care. If you don't like it or if you got sick off of something, you don't want it. So you have to just kind of tap into your own experience and focus on the positive, focus on what they can eat. Nowadays, there's so many things that kids, there's so many, I don't know, I have 5 different ways you can cook with an egg without using an egg. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of things that are out there to help you cook and make things differently. So they're just, I don't know, I guess focus on what they can do. I found with kids, offering just a simple, honest explanation answers their question. For your level, I think you could up it so you know how they think and process. However, there's a lot of anxiety around with children with food allergies. Have a lot of, they're scared. They don't want to have something happen. So, just simple and honest is good. Good to tell them. Hey everyone, just in case you're wondering, I've been trained in food allergies. I know what to do. If you have anything, it's good for them to reassure them that way. And I just think non-threatening terminology, when you go to Lurie Children's, they say it's just a little tiny poke. That's nice. Tiny hug for the blood pressure. It just sometimes just like bringing it down a few notches when they're nervous is still works when they're in middle school. Just if you need to calm them, go back to early childhood techniques. These are the techniques. Concrete, not abstract, is how a simple mind works. Be a lifelong learner. Like, welcome reading a food label. Let them see you do that. Take on their new ideas in that way. Capitalize on their interests. Sit by him, he likes you. He just doesn't like to itch. I like to say you don't catch food allergies like you catch a cold. So kids just want to be included. So they're just trying to find the ways to include them when they have the food. Before I do my wrap up, I want to go back to the fruit smoothie moment. So I got in the car, I got to the ER, got right in, took care of everything. I had a friend meet me there to get all the other kids out of there. Anyway, the next morning is the only time this happens, so I always share this story, but it was so powerful to me though. It was 6 o'clock, we were there till like the wee hours, and we were discharged around like maybe midnight or 1, went home. Next morning, the ER doctor called me, and he said, "How's he doing?" And I said, "Oh, him? He's totally fine." Me? I'm a wreck. Like, it's me now. Like, he's fine, but like I'm replaying all the things that just went down, and I'm a wreck. And he's like, "Well, hang on a second. Let's think this through. Did you tell him he had an allergy? Did you tell them that he was allergic to foods?" I said, "Yeah, I said he had a dairy allergy." "Okay," he said, "You learned that not everyone knows what dairy means." Okay, unfortunate. "But did you know where your medicine was?" I'm like, "Yeah, it was in my purse. My son handed it to me." "Right. Did you know that you needed to administer epinephrine?" I'm like, "Yeah, he had 3 body systems impacted. He had his face, he's holding his neck, and he's vomiting." "Right. Did you administer the epinephrine?" "I did." Upon administering epinephrine, did you get him to the hospital?" "I did. I brought him to you." "Did we take care of him?" "You did. We were discharged at 1 in the morning." "Okay," he said, "that is what you call an accident and an emergency situation. That's all you can do." Like, and I just thought, like, oh, you're right. He's like, if your house was burning down, you'd want to get everyone out, go here and do all your steps, and you don't want it to happen, but you handle it. You follow your procedures, your emergency plan. And he said, "You followed your emergency plan, and we did what we needed to do, and that's how it was." And I just felt like bricks off my shoulders. So I pass it to you that we have these plans. You have them for safety, a lot of safety measures around the school, and have them for food allergies too. And that's what they're for. Doesn't mean accidents won't happen. They will, but you just want to be prepared and follow the plan. And I have to say that him calling that next day to go through that with me was a game changer in my world. Like, right, I just have to, that's all I can do is stay calm, do my plan, and have this. And so I share that with you in that regard. So 8 most common allergens: dairy, egg, peanut, tree nut, wheat, soy, shellfish, fin fish, possibly sesame will come on. Except any others that someone might tell you they have. They do, they're just not as common. 90% will be in those 8. 90% of food allergies are those 8 most common. Signs and symptoms. Your skin is a symptom, is a system. And then think major organs like face, anything like around your face, your neck, your like lungs, stomach, like your internal organs. And you start counting them, like how many are impacted. That's important. Have a plan. You prevent it. Only way to prevent it is to stay away from the food you're allergic to. It's the only way that you can prevent it. So you do anything you can to do that. So you avoid you read food labels, you avoid the cross-contact stuff, and but should you get in a fruit smoothie moment, you manage it. And you take a deep breath, stay as calm as you can, not easy. I found like in all these epinephrines, they'll say count to 5. The first time I administered it, my husband was with me and he said, go to 20, because I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4, you don't even realize, like, I'm on edge, because I wasn't thinking this was happening either. I had 1,000 other things going on too through my brain. So it's the surprise part that's the hardest to manage. So if you have to count longer, it's not just I go to 10 or 20 just to make sure it all went in. It's just more to stay calm and to not rush it. So manage. If you administer epinephrine, you go to the hospital, always. That's important. Set the tone. I'd like to think it's not just early childhood that needs it, but reassurance, reassurance, reassurance. Think of the 2-year-old. I know your kids aren't 2, but when they're running and they fall, and if you go, what do? They cry. But if you're like, oh, get up, shake it off, they might still cry. And you know it's bad, but if you kind of hold it for them, it helps the situation. So reassure, reduce fear. I think it's invaluable, actually. And you can do this, and thank you for doing this. So thank you.
Thank you for coming out. I want to take this opportunity before we dismiss you to remind you about not eating in your classrooms. And this is one of the major reasons that we don't have food in our classrooms. We have designated areas, so the teacher's lounge and your guys' workrooms, those are acceptable. We have a few teacher rooms that we have made allergen-free in social worker offices, but those are clearly labeled. And if anyone still needs a label or if something is missing like that, please bring that to myself or Shirley's attention. And you know, the students' health and their well-being is always our first priority. So having this information, knowing it, and then doing whatever we can to make them safe is very important. And then taking into consideration washing our hands, especially when we have peanut butter and other items like that. I think those are important things for all of us to remember. Do you have any questions while we have our presenter here?
Is it possible for them to trigger a reaction just by smelling something?
Yeah, that's how some will. Like my son can't go into, like, he has a fierce dairy allergy. He can't go into Starbucks, like, because it's so much it's when it changes properties. So like dairy, when it's steamed, it's now a new property. So now it's like all this steam and it will bring it on. So it's usually Starbucks in the winter because it's all sealed up and everyone's ordering like frothy drinks like that. So that's why airplanes have that same problem with peanuts. You're contained, and if you crack a peanut, there's like dust to it, you know, like they're messy. So then it's all contained in that small space. So yes, some do.
We currently have a student in our district that is airborne peanut allergies. Not here yet, but will be here in a number of years. So we do have one in particular that we need to be ready for, and that they are working with K2 already. Any other questions? Well, thank you once again for coming out.
Thank you.
And that's it for everyone. You guys